our guys, that thing. And when you're winning, I think you've got an opportunity to push them even harder in practice to be able to try to get more out of them. In, and so your structure is a little bit different. But our guys are working hard and want to strive for bigger things than just a winning streak in November or December. They're looking towards postseason play, towards the conference, and really have the right priorities set.
You got a win over Cal State Northridge to wrap up the Central Michigan tournament here. Then you went on the road, defeated Texas A&M Corpus Christi by 4. Came back home, won against Jacksonville State, and then most recently at SIU Edwardsville, a great finish for the Chippewas, winning by 1, 65-64, as Chris Fowler was just fantastic down the stretch for you. And that young man is just kind of picking up where he left off last year, isn't he?
Well, I think what Chris did last year, was pretty impressive as a freshman. And what he was able to learn as he went to near the end of the season, you saw him being more aggressive. And it wasn't that he all of a sudden became a great shooter. But he learned the angles. He learned when he could attack the basket and was scoring for us. And what we need now is we need other players to be able to step up and learn that quickly, how to be able to understand that with so many shooters on the court, that basket's open. And even though we don't have a traditional post presence in there like we would like, guards are able to attack that basket and get all the way, like Chris Fowler did in those last 2 possessions at Edwardsville. And we've got some other guys that are going to be able to do that. Then our post presence, we need some of our inside guys to be able to step up and give us something both offensively and defensively as we get ready for MAC play.
It's interesting, those folks who watched your team last year and saw what Kyle Randall was able to do, and he got to the free throw line quite a bit, and almost looks like Chris has learned something from playing with Kyle last year, and he's kind of developed that part of his game as well.
I think he did. I think we all learned something from Kyle Randall in that it shows that you can't dismiss a player just because they might not have had the year or the season that you would have liked the year before. That guys can really improve and develop, and you put them in the right position, they could be successful. And you got to keep your work ethic and your attitude up like Kyle Randall did. And now who's going to be the next Kyle Randall for us? Who's going to be the next guy that's going to go from 5 points a game to 15, or 7 points to 16 or 17, guy from playing 5 minutes a game to 15 or 20. We need a couple guys like that if we want to get to the top of the league, as well as being able to recruit and develop, our recruiting ties in the state of Michigan and the surrounding area.
The other great thing about Chris getting some inside drives for you and getting an opportunity to get to the hoop and get fouled is free throw shooting for you has been just fantastic up and down your lineup when you look at it. Number 1 in the MAC, I believe 6th in the country right now at about 79%. Was that a point of emphasis in the offseason with these guys as you wanted to get really good at the line?
And now you sound like Brad Walkler trying to jinx us on our free throws. Before it's a winning streak, now it's the free throws. I'd like to say that I think some of the things we do in practice, some of the things that we do in development really help free throw shooting. But if we had poor free throw shooters, we'd have a poor free throw shooting team. I think it's more of a commitment to our philosophy and recruiting that we like guys that can shoot the ball from our point guard all the way to our center position. If they can shoot free throws, we can win those close games. You look at the end of the year, we'll play 30, 32 games, and half of them will come down to the last possession or the last minute. And so those free throws really stand out. So I think it's part of our philosophy in recruiting and then continue to work with them while they're here.
When you went through that 4-game stretch that we just came off of when you're able to get that winning streak going, was there anything that stood out as kind of a consistent factor for you in broadcasting the games? You won in a variety of different ways, but did you take something away from that? But, boy, we're doing this really well right now.
Yeah, we're working hard. We're not very pretty in what we're doing, but we're working hard, and we're pretty calm, under pressure. I think when you look at a young team like we have, you worry about those runs that other teams have that are 15-point runs or 10-point runs. Well, in those 4 games, they didn't have a 10-point run or an 8-point run. That we were able to do that, and then late in the game, there wasn't. You'd get in the huddle, and they just they didn't feel pressure. They just let's execute a little better. Let's get down and work a little harder. And I think that's a sign of some good things to come that the pressure doesn't rattle this team.
Conversely, when you go through a stretch like that and you're winning, sometimes it hides some of the things that maybe you're not doing quite as well. Now that you've had a chance to go back and evaluate some of those games, what are the things you're still working on?
Things we need to do better: rebounding, defense, and offense.
Other than
Those are. I mean, we have a long ways to go, but I think that's the biggest positive about this team is that you watch the game and we're far from playing a perfect game. And so that shows we can become a lot better offensively, both with our execution, both with our percentages, our shooting. Defensively, we're just learning. We're so inexperienced in what we're doing. And rebounding still, we need to build. We need to get stronger. We need to focus on the fundamentals. So there's a long way to go, but what we've put in already has allowed us to win some games. Now can we build upon that so that those 1-point games turn into 10-point games?
Rebounding for you is going to be a challenge. You talked about it. You don't have that true post presence in your team. You're not that big. You need a bunch of guys to contribute, and one of the guys who's contributing is doing it on the offensive glass, and that's Rayshawn Simmons. He's not that big. He's 6'4", 182, but he seems to have a knack for getting in there and getting a few boards on the offensive end.
No, he did. I can't remember which game it was, but he had 8 offensive rebounds in one of our games. That shows you those rebounds, they're not all coming above the rim. A lot of those are hitting the floor, and you just have to have effort and intensity to be able to go get some of those rebounds. The players that come out and can't get a rebound, they're not going to play for us. They're going to keep getting opportunities in practice, and when they get the opportunity in game, if they play a few minutes and can't go get a rebound, they'll find themselves on the bench. We need the energy from our starters as well as our bench, but we need it in practice more than anything so that when we get on the court, it's not something different that we're seeing.
That was the win over Austin Peay, where he had 12 overall and he had 8 offensive rebounds. So not a bad night.
Not a bad night. And then I think, was it 5 rebounds at SIUE with 4 offensive? I mean, those are really good numbers when you're getting those kind of offensive rebounds out of your point guard or your off guard. Now, why don't you get those rebounds on the defensive end? And once a player figures that out, now you all of a sudden start talking about double-doubles out of a point guard position. I mean, your point guard gets 10 rebounds a night. Now you got something special. Now you're talking about an all-conference type player, somebody that's going to be playing here at Pass Central. So all of our guys have that kind of goal to be able to see how many games we can win, to try to win championships here. But they have the goal of playing beyond this, and they've got to work hard and have some things bounce. You talk about, but not everyone around the country, not every player is going to work hard enough to give them an opportunity to win and to win big.
Braylon Rayson has been a talented newcomer for you, 5'9", 178, the freshman out of the great state of Texas. He's averaging, almost 9 points off the bench, your leading scorer off the bench. And you talked about this before the season started, and that you can plug Rayshawn in at the point, you can plug Braylon at the point. Obviously, Chris is going to play at the point. How's that rotation working out with you? And sometimes when I look up on the floor, they're all 3 out there at the same time.
Well, we're still trying to find our way as coaches. And I don't know there's blame. It's just we're looking for the right rotation. We're looking for the right mix of players, and that can go from the guys that are playing now that you mentioned. It also goes from the guys that haven't played, that are trying to fight their way into the rotation. The thing I like is in situations late in the game, we could go with 3 point guards out there if a team is pressing us and we're trying to hold the lead. We can go with 5 great shooters if we need to knock down a 3 or if we need to knock down free throws. So there's a wide variety that we can go to this year, and we're continuing to look at different combinations and different rotations.
When you watch Braylon on the floor, sometimes it doesn't take him very long to get a shot up. He's got that scorer's mentality, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. I don't think he's seen a shot he doesn't like yet. It's our job to be able to not inhibit what he does, but try to, direct him to what he does best. And that is attacking the basket. That's using his quickness. That's making plays. It's not so much, getting a shot off, because we know he can do that. But being able to get to the basket like a Chris Fowler really will get the defense back on their heels.
Is that a tough transition for a young man who was such a prolific scorer in high school to adjust to that at this level?
Sometimes. Sometimes I think it depends on the individual. But he's already made a great transition from the time he got here, where he was lost in what we were doing, trying to do it, and where he found his position. And you still see it some nights. Some nights you look and he doesn't seem to quite fit what we're doing. Well, it's his job to figure out how to take his skills and maximize that in our offense, in our fast break. And fortunately, the way we play fits the way he plays. There's not a program in the country that fits his way, that his skill better. So you're going to see some big nights out of him. You're going to see some big nights out of other players on our team too, because you're always going to see the Chris Fowlers and guys like that, John Simons, Blake Hibbets, be pretty consistent. But some other guys that are coming in are going to have some big nights for us too.
Well, it's got to be tempting as well as Chris has played for, and he's kind of your quarterback out there, to really ride his minutes way up during a game. It's got to be tough as a coach to be disciplined enough to pull him off to make sure that he's fresh at the end of a game, isn't it?
It is. It is. I want him in there, more than he's playing. But when you look at Chris Fowler's minutes, it's surprising how few he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's playing, you probably got the numbers in front of you, but I think he's playing 26 minutes a game, maybe. I know he's not he's playing as many minutes as John Simons or Blake Hibbets at our inside position. So I think when we're able to limit him, he's fresh at the end of the game. He's fresh to make that move, make that big stop, that defensive position. And we need him. We need him the whole game, but if we had our choice, we got to have him in there in the last couple minutes.
Yeah, he's just over 27 minutes per game, so you're...
Well, he probably played a few extra minutes that last game. I was probably right before the SIUE game, but he's special. And I think what the idea is, you come in as a freshman, you should be trying to understand how to play as hard as you need to play, and you're not going to be able to play 35 minutes when you come in as a freshman. Doesn't mean you don't deserve those minutes. It means that this style, the way we play, the way we run, what we ask out of our players, it's tough to play a lot of minutes. But as you get your wind, as you learn how to do it as your freshman, your sophomore, your junior year, I wouldn't be surprised to see his minutes go up the next couple of years.
I was kidding Chris after the last game where he got knocked down from behind. He got knocked down several times on the floor that his brother was the one that was the football player, not him. He takes a lot of shots, doesn't he? But he seems to absorb it really well.
Yeah, I think what he understands is he's not Braylon Rayson in his moves, but he's got some veteran moves to him. He'd be great at the YMCA at the rec, with some of those moves he's got. He'll throw his arm in there and his shoulder and his body, and he has a way of being able to figure out how to get to the basket and score points. And, that's saying a lot, because this is a guy last year we were talking about, he's a great, leader and assist guy, and he'll set other guys up. And now all of a sudden he's a scorer, and so I think he's gonna do what's needed to try to win the game. And how do you describe Chris Fowler? I just say he's a winner. He'll do what's needed.
All right, Coach is going to stick around. We've got to take a quick timeout. We'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the CMU team and the challenge that is the Flyers of Dayton, a very good basketball team coming up Saturday night for the Chippewas on the road. Keep it right here on the CMU Sideliners program on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Bud Light presents...
Back on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network, Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. And Michigan dairy farmers are proud to provide post-workout chocolate milk for CMU student athletes. Nutrient-rich chocolate milk helps athletes refuel and rehydrate after intense exercise. It's the CMU Sideliners program. Coach Keno Davis is here. We're talking a little Central Michigan men's basketball. We were talking minutes as we went to the break, and you look at the two top minute guys for you have been Blake and John down on the post. Not surprising because they're very important to what you do.
Yeah, they are. I think, there's no surprise from them coming off of last year to be able to get the experience they had starting, kind of thrown into that role. But John Simons kind of learned by fire, threw him in there against, some guys 3, 4, 5 years, maybe more years older than him. And he did a pretty good job, I think, especially by the end of the year. He was holding his own in there. And then his three-point range is something that's tough for other teams to come out and be able to guard. You see that we're running our fast break, and we're sending John Simons out to the perimeter right off the break. And that's tough for other teams to be able to defend. And it allows our guards to be able to penetrate, but allows our bigs to be able to shoot outside as well.
Yeah, John poses a matchup problem for a lot of teams. Was there a danger in him getting as many minutes as he got last year? I would think if he didn't have the right kind of guy and things went south on him, it could really turn into a bad situation. Obviously, it didn't happen with him.
I think more so you worry about the kind of minutes or reaction you might get from a team when you lose, when you go through those losing streaks and guys lose confidence in themselves and their teammates. So those guys that were put into those kind of roles as freshmen probably didn't expect to be in there. But they did a good job and kept getting better. We talked about last year, hey, we want to get to Cleveland and we're going to be tough to beat. And we were. We lost a one-possession game at Western Michigan the last game of the year, and we go on a one-day turnaround all the way to Buffalo and lose in overtime and have shots to beat them. If we made it to Cleveland last year, it wouldn't have surprised me to go win 2 or 3 games in there. And make a run at it. That's how good we were playing. But that's because of guys like Blake Hibbets and John Simons that they continued to work throughout the whole year and improve.
As a young team, you knew you were going to have a stretch last season where you would probably struggle a little bit. You did. And you talked about this and that you have guys that basically probably coming out of high school haven't lost a whole lot. But how they react to that situation, I think, says a lot about them. And your guys never got down, and as they blossomed towards the end of the season, really gave them a lot of hope. And I think you can see that this year when you look at them and how they're playing on the floor. And really when it comes to leadership with a guy like John, who really has shown that quality as well.
Yeah, I think last year gave him good experience. And yet, with a team with so many freshmen and sophomores, there's no pressure on them, which is something that's so important in athletics, that you can't go in there worrying about if you're going to make or miss a shot. You got to just worry about how hard you play. And if you do that at the end of the game, I've got to, as a coach, make sure that hey, if we worked as hard as we can and we made a lot of mental errors and mistakes and the other team beat us, I can live with that. I can't live with, a team outworking us. And that hasn't happened very often. It's happened a couple times, and they hear about it in practice. But I think to keep their confidence up, keep those guys working towards a direction, it doesn't mean we have to go undefeated yet. It just means we have to continue to improve and move this program forward.
Blake doesn't seem like he's getting a ton of shots, but he's getting some really good looks, and he's making some big buckets for you. Is there, when you look at his game right now, or offensively, you have a lot of different weapons, so it's tough to spread the basketball around, but is he somebody you'd like to see get a few more shots?
Well, Blake Hibbets is a shooter right now, and a very good shooter at that, at his size. He has to continue to work on his game to develop a post presence, to develop putting the ball on the floor so that he's more of a scorer. If he does that, now you're going to see him really improve. So like Southern Illinois Edwardsville took him away completely. Now, great thing about that is it let Chris Fowler get 2 layups at the end of the game to win the game. So it's not so much that I want to see him shoot more. It's just shot selection and then, improve his percentage when he gets those opportunities. But if they want to take him away, they're going to be able to do that right now in his career. But as he improves, hopefully because he'll become more versatile, you won't be able to take away. If you take one area away, he'll be able to beat you in others.
And you've seen that with John already a little bit, haven't you, where his post game has really improved?
Not only his post game, but he puts the ball on the floor okay. And now you got to remember, he's got bigger slower guys guarding him, so he doesn't have to be a jet going around him. But he can put the ball on the floor and pretty good passer. You remember he's coming from high school, he played on the perimeter, so he's improving in those areas. And it's nice to have that combination with him and Blake out there.
Well, one guy who's been in your starting lineup all season long, who, by his own admission, will admit he was a little bit lost last season. That was Austin Keel, and he's really been a key part of what you've been doing so far. Can you compare where he's at this year to where he was last year?
Well, I think last year with Austin, when he was struggling shooting the ball, he didn't help us out there. That he wasn't, and I say this, I love Austin Keel, but the defensive end, the rebounding there, he wasn't giving us anything if he wasn't shooting the ball. And then you don't shoot the ball. Now, he was out there because of necessity. This year, he's had some decent shooting nights. He's had some nights where he isn't shooting the ball well, but in those nights where he's not shooting it well, he puts the ball on the floor, he's making the extra pass, he comes up with a big steal or a big rebound, and that's why he hasn't been beaten out yet for that starting spot. Now, if he starts shooting the ball well from the outside, now nobody will beat him out. But he's turned into more of an all-around player than he was last year for sure.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job for you, and Austin Stewart has been in your starting lineup quite a bit so far this season. Talk about Austin's game. He seems like he's one of those guys that you hate to call somebody a complimentary player, but he does a lot of different things for you, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think with Austin Stewart, just scratching the surface of how good he can become. He could become a great player if he learns how to play. Now, what he's learning right now is how to play hard, and when we see glimpses of that, he leads us in rebounding in that last game, gets 7 rebounds. If he, from that third guard position, could go get 7 or 8 rebounds a game, you remember our leading rebounder last year had, Don, how many did our leading rebounder have? I'll be like Coach G. I'll throw some basketballs out to you. Our leading rebounder last year had 5 rebounds a game.
Is that what it was?
So if Austin Stewart from a 3-guard position could get 7, how good could we become just on that alone? And when you go do that, you're going to score the basketball. You're going to come up with big stops. He'll be a fixture in that starting lineup. If he doesn't, then other guys are going to beat him out that can do other things. But he's got a potential for having an outstanding career here at CMU.
Well, if we want to continue the winning streak, it's not going to be very easy. On the schedule, the Flyers of Dayton, they were in the top 25, just got voted there. And then they lost their last game at Illinois State, 81-75. We were talking a little bit before we came on the air. I got an opportunity I always like to listen to the coaches after a contest, and their head coach was not very happy with this team. And when you hear a coach talking about lack of effort, new starting lineup coming the next week, you know that they're going to have some pretty difficult practices and probably going to be ready to go against you guys.
Well, I think it's a trap that we fall into as coaches, and not speaking for him, but if we lose that game at Edwardsville, which we could have very well lost, we'd had a whole different frame of mind in the locker room, the team, the practices, and all of a sudden sometimes you get better off of the losses. You got to learn how to get better off the wins as well, which we've been trying to do. But I think you'd prefer playing a team when they're sitting there kind of fat and happy off of a winning streak, and you might sneak up on them. There's not going to be any sneaking up on Dayton. They're going to be fired up and ready to go, but our guys are ready to go because this is a great opportunity for them to come in on the road against a top 25 team or a team just outside the top 25, and nobody's going to be expecting us to go in there and play with them except the guys in the locker room. And our fans won't be surprised. Those that have been able to see us play know if we knock down some shots, we can play with anybody. Now, where we are with our program, we still got to knock down some shots. When they're not going in from the perimeter, it's going to be tough for us to try to find a way. But so far, what have we done? We found a way to win some games, even when the shots haven't been able to go in.
This seems like a team that likes to play your pace of basketball. They've had a lot of scores that have been up there in points a little bit. Is that what you expect to see Saturday night?
Well, I'd expect to see them run. I'm not going to give away any secrets in case they're listening, on what we're going to try to do. But what we have to do is we have to figure out what's our best chance to beat Dayton. And if we decide to press them, full court, three-quarter court, half court, great. If it's to slow them down, to try to win a basketball game, even though that's not what we like to do, we'll do that. So it's each and every night you're trying to game plan to win one game, knowing that you still have an overall philosophy that you're practicing towards, that you're recruiting towards to be good and great in the future.
We've seen the press quite a bit from your team so far this year. When you're using that, is it, sometimes we see turnovers off of it. Sometimes we don't, but by the time the other team gets started and into their offense, maybe they've got 17 seconds on the shot clock. It gives you a variety of different things, doesn't it?
It does, and as a team gets more experienced and they've been through the process so that when you've got seniors that have been there for 4 years and they've done it, and your freshmen come in and they just learn. What you'd like, I think, with pressure is you'd like to be able to control the tempo, and that doesn't mean always speed it up, but to speed them up, to slow them down, to keep them out of rhythm. And all of a sudden now they don't get into their sets like you talked about with shot clock, or they take forced shots on the break. And then really what it does is in the last 5-10 minutes of the game, some teams we've been playing this year have been gassed. I mean, there's you
right.
look, our guys come to the huddle and they're winded, and they look over there and that other team's got nothing left. Mm-hmm. And so now all of a sudden you win the game at the last play or in the last minute or the last 2 minutes. Well, that's not always luck. Sometimes it's just because we're better prepared to play at that style. Dayton will be a different test. They're going to be an NCAA team, or if not, they'll be right there at the edge. So we're going to need to not only play hard and play well, but we're gonna have to knock down some shots.
All right, Coach is going to stick around for a final segment. We'll be joined by freshman guard Josh Kaczynski when we come back. Keep it right here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Chrysler.
Back on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Fabiano Brothers, proud distributors of Bud and Bud Light. With the YP app, YP.com site, and YP Real Yellow Pages directory, you can find everything you're looking for locally. It's everything you want, all in one place, the YP app. Back with Coach Keno Davis, and Josh Kaczynski is here, the freshman guard out of Edwardsville, Michigan. Let's talk a little bit about how Josh ended up here. We were talking on the last trip about your recruiting, and you mentioned that you almost made the fatal mistake of going to that school in the Southwest that we don't like to talk about in Michigan. But you ended up at Chippewa. Talk about how Josh got here.
I told you he was pretty smart, you know.
Right.
Well, I think, again, when we were trying to build a program, you're looking to get quality student individuals, student athletes that are really focused not only in the classroom, but to try to become as good a player as they can become. And when we look at the shooting guards that were out there, I didn't have anyone on our entire list rated higher than Josh Kaczynski as a guy that could, shoot from not only the collegiate line, but I think you're going to see him be able to extend his range out to the three-point range and become a great player here at CMU.
Josh, what's been the toughest adjustment for you so far in your freshman year?
Definitely the speed, getting comfortable with the shot. I still need to work on that, as you can see, but I guess everybody kind of struggles with that.
I would think you have an advantage, though, just from watching your games. It looks like you have, if not the quickest release, one of the quickest releases on the team, doesn't he?
He's got as quick a release as you'll see for his age. I think, to become a quicker release is something that I'm not really worried about right now. I think just in time and repetition it might get a hundredth of a second quicker, but it's awfully tough for our guys to defend him out there. And it's going to give him the ability to get shots off.
It's always a tough decision when you have a freshman, and even though your team is young, you have pretty good depth, and you debate whether or not you're going to redshirt somebody. And tell me about that conversation that you had with him and how you make a decision like that, because Josh sat the first couple games and then got in there.
Yeah, he did. I think what we do as a staff is we're really try to evaluate what we have on the team and as well as evaluate a player developing. And so it kind of fell together quickly, which was good for Josh's sake. Once you get into 7-8 games, now you really have to make a decision. But our guys were struggling to be able to knock down shots in that game with Bradley. And he was doing well in practice. He was knocking those shots down. And so we decided we were going to commit to him and understand that he was going to go through some growing pains shooting the ball, which everybody does coming in as a freshman. But by the time MAC play came, we felt that his timing would be down, and he'd be a real weapon for us, not just with teams that would play zone, but that we can put him out there and feel confident in his ability.
How did it feel for you the first game when you finally got in there?
Coach said, be ready, but don't be ready at the same time. So I was nervous, but when my number was called, I was pretty excited. But
it's got to be tough to be practicing all the time and putting in all that work and then not getting on the court. But when you finally do and you knock down a couple shots, it's got to be a great feeling.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, congratulations. You're off to a great start. And academically, you're only in your freshman year. You got any thoughts on what you want to do yet?
Thinking finance as of right now. I just got done with business calc, so we'll see how that turned out.
It sounds like a fun course.
Yeah, I don't think I took that in my first semester,
No.
but hopefully nobody will look up my grades in the first semester. So, but no, I think an outstanding individual, and you're going to see great things from him. But I've been telling all of our guys, our upperclassmen, our sophomores, our freshmen alike, is don't put too much pressure on yourself to knock down that shot. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about becoming a better basketball player by working harder, and don't worry so much about the result. Worry about the process. And if we do that, you're going to see big nights from Josh. Not just when he becomes a senior, but in his freshman year. It's not going to surprise us because we've got guys that are pretty talented out there, and Josh is definitely one of them.
Well, we'll need Josh Saturday night at Dayton against the Flyers. We'll get on the air at 6:45, and then we're going to stay on the road and go down and return the favor with Jacksonville State, a team you've already played and beaten this year. And we'll be on there. That's kind of a late start. We'll be on at 8:30 with an 8:45 tip back here in Central Michigan. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you Saturday night.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's Josh Kaczynski, freshman guard for the Chippewas, and the head coach of the men's basketball program, Keno Davis. We'll talk a little CMU women's basketball on the other side when we come back right here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. Back on the CMU Sideliners program, this week's Members First Credit Union Scholar Athlete of the Week is Zach Klein of the wrestling program. A native of Hartville, Ohio, Klein has earned a 3.32 grade point average as a communications major. He earned his first career MAC conference dual victory with a 5-1 decision over a Buffalo opponent Sunday afternoon. He took advantage in the second period with a 2-point reversal, nearly pinned his opponent before going on to earn a third period takedown and accumulating riding time to secure the win. Zach Klein, this week's Members First Credit Union Scholar Athlete of the Week. Members First Credit Union making a positive difference now with 2 locations in Mount Pleasant. Joining us now is the head basketball coach of the CMU women's program, Sue Guevara. Good to see you.
You too.
Last time I saw you, you were celebrating a very dramatic win at McGurk that got you some national publicity as well. Take me through the final 30 seconds of that game where somehow your club was able to pull that victory out.
You know, Don, the last 30 seconds, it was all such a blur. No, really, we had called our last time out, and we talked about who we were going to foul and what we were going to do on the way down. And prior to that, Crystal had hit a 3 to put it to 6. And, they inbound the ball. We foul. We foul a young lady, Amber Dean, who's from Country Day. So, it was a big game for her coming back,
Oh,
blah,
sure.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
She misses the 2 free throws. We had called a pick and pop with Taylor Johnson and CB. Because, I know with Taylor, first of all, she sets a really mean screen. And then she can either roll or obviously pop, but we needed the 3. And either one of those 2 were going to take it, or we had DeJulio in the corner.
Always a good option.
Well, you think about it, we had 5 kids that could shoot the 3
Right.
on the floor at
Kind
that
of
time.
what Coach was talking about with the men's team at times.
You got to love it, and so, they doubled up on CB. She got it to Taylor, and, Taylor banks it in, just like she had planned.
That was going to be my next question.
Just like she had planned. Well, I said this to some people up there earlier, and I don't know how many people remember this or if you remember this, but 3 years ago, Taylor hit the same shot off the glass against the University of Toledo.
It was against Toledo.
And we beat Toledo. And it was the exact same thing, except at that point, Taylor was coming down and filling the lane. Well, today, last week she was a pick and pop. So then, then Jim calls it.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
He calls a timeout to set his play, and somehow you're still able to get a steal.
Yeah, and I don't know why she threw the ball. I don't know why she was throwing long, and I think it was, if you're watching the tape, it looked like the kid was just about to get beyond DeJulio. But then here's Speedy Gonzalez, here's Taylor Johnson, and she kind of threw it right to her, and then we all thank the good Lord that she tripped and rolled the ball to CB, and CB was able to put that in, because I will guarantee you, Taylor was shooting that basketball when she got it.
Oh,
and,
sure.
And she makes half court shots, so and it was just unbelievable. But there was still 0.2 seconds left on that clock, and my director of basketball, Phil Winland, he's out there, and I'm watching the tape, and he's all hunkered down, and and I'm getting everybody off the floor. Get off the floor! Get off the floor! It's a technical foul, and the 2 officials there were telling people to get back, so they did not. They didn't want to have to call a technical
in
at
that
that point.
situation,
And,
yeah.
Right. So it was, it was such a back and forth kind of a game. It was very exciting. And, I said to Rich Fleming up there and his wife Diane that, down 9 with 3 minutes to go, there's not a lot of people that, you have much faith, you have much hope in what's going to happen. And then, when you're down, 9 with 30 seconds, what are you going to do? So it was a great win for our program, and it was a really good home opener for us. And, we get to see Toledo again.
Pretty dramatic way to get your 100th win as the CMU head
Well,
coach.
yeah, it was. I didn't, that's what, of course, the radio guys say to me after, well, Coach, congratulations on your 100th. And it's like, we just won the game. That's all I'm happy about,
Absolutely. Well, after a game like that, and the highlights were everywhere. I think it ended up in number 2 play on Sports Center.
Right.
And how much do you hear from folks around the country? Because obviously you have a lot of ties all over the place about when something like that happens.
Right. Well, Don, I didn't even know it was number
soon.
2 till the next morning, and I had a whole bunch of texts. Congratulations, blah 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 blah. You're on Sports Center, and it's like we're on Sports Center. So of course, I get up and turn on the TV, and there it is, and it was just so cool. It's just really good publicity, obviously for Central Michigan
sure.
University, but for our program. But then, there was also a snippet where it wasn't in the top 10. They had another piece, and I think it followed one of the L.A. Lakers, something with them, but it had Taylor's shot.
Yeah, it showed the game highlights a little. Yeah.
So it's everybody now knows that we shoot the three.
Yeah, I think most people knew that already as well.
Right.
All right, Coach is going to stick around. We're going to come back, talk a little bit more about the start for the Chippewas and their opponent coming up, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. Keep it right here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Bud Light presents.
Mike's up.
Back on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network. It's the CMU Sideliners program. Chippewa Cab is providing round-trip rides from the Towers parking lots on North Campus in front of Robinson Hall on men's basketball game days for only $1. Chippewa Cab providing simplified, convenient transportation for our fans. Very important with as cold as it's been the past few days here in Mount Pleasant. One place it gets a little colder is up in Petoskey. We have a young lady who was the pride of Petoskey for a number of years, played for her dad at Petoskey High School. Coach, you want to introduce our next guest and tell us a little bit about her?
I would love to. This is Kirby Tam. She's a junior. She is from Petoskey. Today is her 21st birthday.
Happy birthday.
I want you to know after our first game, she was leading the MAC in rebounding. She took down 14 rebounds her first game against UMass. She has really blossomed for us this year, and she is somebody that I cannot take out of the starting lineup. So on that note, here's Kirby Tam.
Welcome. Good to have you here. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Great way to spend your birthday to have you with us. We appreciate it. Now, how does somebody who's a guard and supposedly a three-point specialist end up with all those rebounds?
I just make sure I make contact on my box out and sometimes get a lucky bounce to you. But
Sounds like a coach's daughter to me.
Sounds like it. You're right.
Tell me about this team and kind of your decision to come to Central Michigan and how you fit in here with this club.
well, first of all, I just really love the coaching staff and the proximity to home and all the academic programs here. It just was a really good fit for me.
With your dad being a coach, was it important for you to have an opportunity for him not to travel too much? Because I'm sure he wants to get to all your games.
Yeah, I'm close with my family, so having it be just over 2 hours away was really important to me also.
Well, you have a little bit of, I'm going to say, just a luxury here on your team this year with all the depth you have and all the young ladies who can shoot the three. How does Curb fit into that rotation for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Don. When the season first started, you look at, Kirby had the 14 rebounds, and I'm not sure how many threes you hit in maybe our first 3 or 4 games, but she is somebody who made 50,000 threes over the summer, and I wanted her to come back being very confident to shoot the three. And so her ball, the three ball wasn't quite going, and then it really got going against Xavier. And when you have as many three-point shooters that we have that are all firing and they're all able to score, we're really tough to defend. But I think when you have to look at Curb, you have to look at the things that stats don't show. Positioning, you asked about, for rebounding, being in the right place, getting early rebounding positioning, talking defensively, because she's in the back of the 2-3 zone, and there's a reason for that, because she sees everything and she talks, and she lets Crystal know exactly where she's supposed to be, and she helps with the guards, and she also plays at the guard spot. So her versatility, I think, has really blossomed for us this season.
6 3-pointers versus Xavier in that contest for the Chippewas, 18 points for you in that one. Tell me about where you're at with this team right now. You're a junior now, and you're kind of assuming more of a leadership role as you go along with this club, and you've got some younger ladies on the team. And Coach talked about it, being a coach's daughter. Do you feel like even more you're talking on the floor and helping to move people around and get them in the right spot?
Yeah, I think communication is one of the top things with me, but just growing up from freshman to sophomore year, freshman year you're just trying to understand what's going on, and sophomore year too. But having 2 years under my belt, I think I've become a lot more comfortable with what we're doing.
I'm going to guess you like those kind of players. You wouldn't mind having all coaches' daughters on your team, would you?
I coaches' daughters and captains. Wouldn't mind it at all. But, I think, what Kirby just said, what you don't know, too, is, again, a coach's daughter, but a very smart student athlete, studies the game. This year our kids all got iPads. We gave them the iPads and all the scouting reports, and
Nice.
everything is all on their iPads. And I know that every time highlights are done or lowlights are done or anything is done, Kirby has watched it, has digested it, and understands what needs to be done.
Well, that's great to see. Curb, tell me about this team and goals for you after last year, winning that MAC championship and getting the first round of the NCAA, falling a little bit short. What's the team talking about as far as goals and where you want to be by the end of the year?
Well, obviously we want to win the MAC championship again. We want it all again, and make a run in the NCAA tournament. Make it past the first round and hopefully the second round.
What do you think of coaches' scheduling techniques? Do you like playing these schools that are in the top 25 and it's going to be an uphill battle, but you might get one here or there?
Yeah, well, every game's a challenge, and I think it prepares our team well. We're going to be even more prepared for the MAC, so it's good to be able to play against the top teams in the country. It's definitely a challenge, but we're ready to face it.
We talk about that a lot because of your scheduling and where you're at with everything, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about South Dakota State. But just give us an overall preview of what you have left going into the Mid-American Conference season as we get closer to that opener against Toledo. And, some of the teams you're going to see are a couple of ranked teams as well, right?
Well, right, and I think, we have South Dakota State coming up, and then, we have a Prairie View A&M team that comes in next Wednesday, and they went to conference. They went to the tournament last year. Real athletic type of team, kind of like Kentucky, but a little bit smaller. And then we get to go with the Fighting Irish again.
Right.
And I think I think our players really do welcome that kind of a schedule.
Especially when they played here and you were right in that game.
Right, we were right in that game with them, and now, we're going to go back, and we have a totally different team, and so do they. And then, we come back from Christmas, and then we go to Purdue. And Purdue's in the top 25 right now, and, so again, it's another really good challenge, on the road, and then we're going to see Dayton.
Oh, they're going to be happy to see you.
Oh, they're going to be real happy to see us, and but I think we're going to be very well prepared. We're going to know exactly what they need to do. I'm sure they're not going to do the same thing they did, but we're not going to let the game be in the same position, are we, Curb? No, it'll be a totally different position. But then, I told our kids earlier, Don, when we had only one game. And I said, look, let's not get caught up in the wins and losses. Let's get caught up in the process. The date that we have to be concerned about, that we're focused, is what, Curb?
January 4th.
January 4th.
The Rockets of Toledo.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we should mention to folks, too, the only time they're really going to get a chance to see you is on the 18th, right, before conference play starts.
That's right, and that's at noon, and it's our Hoops for Hunger game, and it's one that we're able to raise tons of food for, the food pantry here in mid-Michigan. So, we hope we can get people to come out, bring some food, and it's Christmas time. It's time to give back.
Sure. Kerr, before we let you go, what are you getting into as far as academically, and What do you want to do with your life after basketball? I'm sure you've given that some thought.
I'm hoping to go to PT school when I'm done, so that's
Great.
the goal.
Well, it's a great goal. Congratulations on a great start. Good luck the rest of the way. Go enjoy your birthday.
Thank you.
This can't be the highlight, by the way. All right, Coach is going to stick around. We'll come back. We'll
Thanks,
talk
Kurt.
about the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State after this timeout on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge,
Kaboom.
Ram. If it doesn't
Okay,
say Lakeshore, you paid too much. America's best cars, trucks, and minivans cost less every day.
Last segment's going to have to be 2 minutes.
Go to BoydEarls.com.
Less than 2
That's
minutes.
BoydEarls.com.
All right, guys, listen up. Before you step out into the night, I want you to designate a driver.
Hey, Rob.
Because
Hey,
great
Chance.
times
Yes.
don't
Yo.
happen without
What's
that
what's
guy.
our
No, go
He's
ahead.
the guy. Make
What
sure
time do
you
you
don't
have
act
on your
like
cell
an idiot
phone
in front of the cute girl across the room. He
I
buys
have
her a
55
Budweiser
on my
and
cell
says
phone.
it's
Okay, I have
from
55.
I'm going by the
And then
computer.
at the end of
I'm
the
going by the
best night of
computer
your
clock,
life,
though.
he makes sure you
And our
get her
computer
home
clock
safely.
goes
So
to
raise the hand
56
for the
right
hero
now.
of the night, the designated
So our hard out time is 59:16.
Enjoy responsibly.
That didn't
So
look like
we
Chris
have-
went over to
Heritage Auto Mall on
That
East
didn't look like
M20
Chris
and
was normal
So we have-
style on that last one.
You know what? John?
Yeah,
I'm
not
gonna tell you
even
what,
after
that
the
last
bump. So it's like
one-
a,
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna be like a
don't know if you
150.
saw the Mac-
Heritage Auto
So,
Mall has new
um,
Chrysler's, Dodge,
Just
Jeep,
make sure
Ram,
Don is
trucks,
aware
a variety
of
She
that.
hit the
We're about a
exact
minute
same
away from
shot.
the bump.
All right, hey,
Against
Donnie, we're about a
Akron.
minute away. This
On
next
most vehicles,
this next segment's
regardless
going to
of
need to be
make
about a minute
and
and a half.
Mopar
That's fine.
parts
Shoot
and
for that, a little bit over spine.
If
That's
you need a
fine.
body shop,
We are
Heritage
up one.
Collision is approved by most
And
major
I will,
businesses and
We
does
ran
a
an
great
Chance,
job.
I'll let you know when we get to a minute and 30, but I'll give you like more than a minute. I'll give you like a minute and
And
3.
fell back.
So we have a little
like she
couple
does.
second
Did you go back and
buffer.
look at it again?
Sound good?
Yeah, that'll work.
CMU Chip Rewards is online.
I figure by the time you hear me say it and then you give it to him, it'll be pretty much 1 minute. So 30 plus the bump.
Compete with friends to see who's the biggest Chippewa fan. Download the Fan IM app. And
Well, he's
search
back.
for
She's gotta be
Central
happy.
Yeah.
Or register online.
Is that her
at
favorite player?
CMUChipRewards.com.
That's one.
Oh, okay.
Fan IM, where
15
fans
plus the
connect.
bump.
15 plus the bump.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge,
15
Ram.
plus
If
the
it doesn't say Lakeshore,
Plus-
Visit themorningsun.com for the latest sports and news updates. The Morning Sun, in print every day, online all the time. Coach Sue Guevara is here. Well, you've got a real tough hurdle to try and match the excitement you had in your last game, and you're headed to South Dakota State to take on the Jackrabbits, who are 7-4, and another good team on your schedule early on. Tell us about the challenge that is the Jackrabbits.
Well, you know, Don, every coach I have talked to said, don't expect to win there. You're not going to win there because it's such a tough place to play. And Penn State, ranked number 12 in the country, they found that out last night. They lost, I can't remember what the score was, but the score at halftime was 55-35, South Dakota State. And actually, they're very similar to
1
us,
minute,
Don, in the
1
fact
minute.
that they're really good at penetrating, and they've got good three-point shooters. We beat them last year here at the McGurk 88-62. So they had a little bit of trouble defending us, our penetration, and they didn't really have an answer for CB. So I expect it's going to be a really up and down game. I know that we're not going to get a call. That's not going to happen. And I just got to get this team mentally ready to roll.
30.
And it's like I said, it was South Dakota yesterday. So Penn State shot the
Like they
ball.
really wanted to be there.
They
right?
did not want to be there. At least that's how it looked. But I just know it's going to be a totally different
15.
outlook for us when we're there on Saturday.
All right. Well,
Sunday.
thank you so much for spending some
10,
time with us.
9,
Good luck on Sunday.
My
That'll-
pleasure.
That'll be
7,
2 o'clock. We'll be back
6.
on the air here. So
That's right.
thank you so much. Good luck against the Jackrabbits. We'll see you back here against Prairie View A&M on the 18th.
At noon.
All right. Coach G, we got to run. That's going to do it for CMU Sideliners here on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan IMG Sports Network.
Clear.